Hey guys, this is Red from the Paddle Dojo and Paddle Synergy, and I wanted to make this quick video to say that thank you for so much. It's been 1 year. It's been 1 year since the Paddle Dojo has been up and running, and in that time, not including the teams that I've had the opportunity and honor and privilege to work with, just on an individual basis, on a one-on-one basis. I've had the opportunity to coach and train 332 paddlers. So thank you so much, each and every one of you. Hopefully you get the chance to see this video, at least to hear me say thank you and my heartfelt appreciation for you taking the time to see me and allowing yourselves to be open-minded and open-hearted to get a better perspective on how to approach your workouts on the water. So thank you. The next part of the agenda I want to talk about is what the Paddle Dojo is and what the Paddle Dojo isn't. Now, of course, you say, wait a minute, Red, there's a video about what the Paddle Dojo is. Yes, it's just kind of a sales pitch. It was something that I did last year in my garage. Definitely need to update it. But that being said, I wanted to touch a little bit more about that and talk about maybe a little bit about what the Paddle Dojo is not. First and foremost, what the Paddle Dojo is, it's about building perspective, right? It's about understanding yourself, understanding the tools that you use to help build to your goals, right? What the Paddle Dojo is not a one-stop shop in where once you come see me, that's it, you're done. You're going to be the next Danny Ching. No way. I'll never ever say that. Nor would I say that you're obviously going to be getting out there and after you seeing me, you're going to be out there just crushing it, right? What I would say, though, is that you're going to have a better understanding of who you are as a paddler and how you use your tools. And that right there is in itself a powerful element in where, unfortunately, when we go out and we get coached, I get coached in a group setting, going out to these clinics with these phenomenal athletes in a group setting, maybe even getting one-on-one from these phenomenal coaches or athletes. There's these things in where how do you approach them? How do you approach those coaches? How do you approach your training with the mindset of, a lot of times we just think, okay, I'm just going to absorb that information and then I'm going to interpret that information the best I possibly can. And when the coach says, any questions? Nope. And you're just like, and again, because you don't want to waste their time and you don't want to feel that, especially in a group setting, you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you're holding rest up, you feel that you may be holding up the group, or you don't want to embarrass the speaker, or just basically don't want to waste anyone's time. But in fact, that is important to ask the questions. It is important to know what questions to ask. And that's where the Paddle Dojo comes into play. So when you see these phenomenal athletes, like Danny Ching or Will Reichenstein or Luke Evslin, Monte Owens, Nefi Tahiva, name dropping here, sorry, but just putting that out there. Jim Fody, had to name drop Jim Fody. You're seeing these phenomenal paddling athletes and these phenomenal coaches. You only have so much time with them, right? And for me, it didn't come till later where I finally said, hey, hold the phone. I have problems with this, and this. And when I was able to communicate that to these coaches, it completely changed their dynamic and their approach. And it really made them feel, empowered them to say, oh, okay, so focus on this, and this. And while I go work out everyone else, I'm going to come back and touch base with you and see what you felt and what you did, and we'll move on from there. These questions were something that no one taught me. I had to just kind of figure out myself out of necessity. And so, coming back to the Paddle Dojo, that's exactly what I try to do, is try to help empower paddlers to understand themselves so they can ask the right questions. Because when you go to these clinics, or even when you go out there and you get trained in a group setting with your respective teams, they're going to say, this is how you build a house, okay? The house being whatever it is your goal is, meaning this is how we're going to get to first place, or this is how we're going to have a better time. This is how you're going to be a better paddler. If you do these techniques, you do these drills, you're going to get better, right? But all the while, when you're doing these drills and you're doing these techniques, all you're doing is able to build a shed. Maybe over time, put a little add-on to that shed. But at some point, you're like, why can I not build a house doing what I'm being told? I'm doing everything right, at least from my perspective, that I'm doing everything right. And sure enough, I can only build a shed. And it's not a very good shed at that. Maybe, I got to put some duct tape to just hold it together or whatnot. Regardless, right? So again, it's about time, right? Coaches are not going to have time to get into the nitty-gritty of things. So when you come to the Paddle Dojo, I'm not going to teach you how to build a house. I'm going to teach you how to build a hammer. Did I say build a hammer? I'm going to tell you how to build a house using a hammer, or if in that sense, using the tools that you are comfortable with. So this is not a hammer, this is a marker, so bear with me. You'd think I'd have a hammer by now, but this is just an example. Imagine this is a hammer, and the black part of the hammer is where you typically hammer things with, right? Okay? So even it's as simple as things like this, the hammer being, okay, the paddle, okay? The idea is we want to be efficient, we want to hit that nail the right way. We want to hit the water the right way. Well, you may end up, without beknownst to you, be using the hammer this way. Again, the hitting point is pointing this direction now instead of towards that direction. Or even worse, you're using the hammer, the back end, which is typically the end that takes out the nail, right? So coming to the Paddle Dojo, it's about learning how to use that tool. And if it so happens, if you don't know how to use a hammer, but you know how to use a wrench, and you're saying, I am only going to use this wrench. Okay, we're going to work on figuring out how to build a house using a wrench. Maybe you might want to try this hammer. Okay? And so, that's what the Paddle Dojo is about. And then you go out and you figure out, okay, let me go back to my shed and let me use this new mindset, this new perspective. And all of a sudden, what seemed hard is now way easier. And now you're in a position to understand, now I got something I didn't see it that way before. I was doing things far more difficult than I needed to. And now I can start building up on other components, start adding on to things. And, which is great. And you go out there and now you're empowered to understand what it is the coaches are saying to you. Right? What is it when you go out to see those phenomenal athletes providing those clinics? Now you have the opportunity to really feel empowered to ask the questions, and then in turn will then empower them to give you the right answers, or at least the answers for you to help continue on your journey, to continue on to building your perspective, right? And that's what I sell. That is what the Paddle Dojo is about. And again, it's about taking the time to understand the tools that you're using. And not only just the tools, but understanding your body, understanding the feels, the muscles, everything. This here is a tool. In a sense, it's the same thing as the house that we're building is the tool that is also part of building that house. So if you're just focusing on just that paddle or that hammer and not using this and not focusing on this, then you're doing twice the effort for only half the gain or half the return. And the other thing too is that when it comes to coaching, coaches really can only coach from what they see, right? And what they see is what we typically do when your blade is out of the water. So what the Paddle Dojo is, we're talking about, let's try to figure out what is it that you're doing when you do put the blade in the water, and feeling that so that you're hitting the nail right, or you're screwing the bolt correctly, or tightening the bolt correctly. These are the things in where, sure, you may be using the hammer the right way, but right when you make impact, something else might be happening. And we want to make sure that, or I want to make sure that you're hitting that nail the right way. And that's the thing in where now in the Paddle Dojo, you get to understand what it is that you're trying to do what is it that you're doing when you put the blade in the water, and what is it that you're not doing when you put the blade in the water, right? And that's something, again, that coaches don't typically have time to focus on. They can only train, not only that, I take that back, they typically have enough time to focus on what they see right in front of them, right? And so that's another thing. Now, moving on from Paddle Dojo and even getting into now into a situation where, okay, now I know how to work these tools. Where do I get the chance to practice this? Now, going on the water time, hands down is the best. You can't dispute that, right? But how often do you get a chance to go on the water? And at the same time, there is something to be said. If you go on the water every time, it's like eating chicken every day, right? Eventually, your body's it's gonna find ways to not get any benefit. It's just gonna get used to it. Right? So you have to do your land training if you want to exceed, if you want to push past your levels that we're on now, which is cruise control, and pushing on to the next level. And so that's where paddle synergy comes into play. And what is paddle synergy? Paddle synergy is a place, think of it like it's a wood shop or an auto shop. Now you have an opportunity to work on your craft, work on your tools, perfecting and refining your tools, and in yourself, i.e. not only your tool, but your body with fitness programs and sessions, and understanding how it is that, okay, if I'm feeling this way, what do I need to do to compensate for this? And that's what paddle synergy, again, it's like a wood shop. Getting out there, working out and getting some time in to practice, simulate what it is that you're trying to accomplish on the water. I worked in IT, and prior to working in IT, we had to do a number of simulations, whether it be at a computer-based training or it had to be something where we had physical devices, network devices, be it routers, switches, and servers, and the software, respective software, be it Linux or Windows server, and figuring out how those things get to talk to each other. And we had to practice that before we get out there in the real world and put that into work and get paid for it. Same thing about paddle synergy. Think about that as a place for you, the paddler, to practice, to get yourself to more refinement of both the tool of your body and the tool of the paddle. And going out there and then applying what you've learned from both the paddle dojo and the time that you get the chance to practice at the paddle synergy, and then going in on the water. So that right there in itself is something that, we don't really have that much of at least here in Southern California, that opportunity. Right? There's not to say that they're not out there, but not to say that you couldn't go to any other gym. But most gyms are not going to facilitate that concept of how you're going to translate what you work out on here on land to go on the water. And it could very well be some of the workouts that you're doing don't even translate. They're just to grind you out. Not saying again that there's not gyms out there, but paddle synergy is definitely one of them. And I would really encourage for you folks who've come through the Paddle Dojo to come out and check out Paddle Synergy. Get you a chance to refine and hone in your craft, and then go out there and paddle on the water. Again, it was a bit longer video than I wanted to. It's about 15 minutes long. That's about typical YouTube standards just anyway. And at least, it's not me spouting out something someone else said and I'm just regurgitating back. I watch a lot of YouTube, so you get a lot of same, just different face, different voice. But again, if you have any questions, if you have any comments, go ahead and post it down on the comment box. No whiz bang Paddle Dojo, Paddle Synergy links right now. But if you want, you can put the links of Paddle Synergy and Paddle Dojo on the comment box below. And again, feel free to PM me via Facebook or Twitter, and I'll be sure to get back to you with any questions or if you have any comments that you'd like to share. Again, thank you so much for your time, gang, and I hope you have a great rest of your week. Oh, and by the way, nope, that's all I got. Thanks, guys.